When COVID closed schools across the country, it was chaos.
People had no idea the coronavirus pandemic was going to happen.
Jason Patel is the founder of Transition, a college advising platform focused on closing opportunity gaps in education.
It's led to teachers, administrators, parents, and students feeling isolated, and overall, everyone is feeling overwhelmed at the process.
People are triggered by the idea of keeping their kids home. People are triggered by the prospect of sending them back to school. And every one of those anxieties makes sense. But respectful of the very real tragedies of the pandemic, we're going to look for some silver linings in American education coming out of COVID. For starters, many kids have become more resilient, independent learners.
How they've learned over the past several or a dozen years changed overnight.
Remember your grandparents talking about scarlet fever, the Great Depression, or rationing during World War II? And other than a perverse affinity for individually wrapped hard candies, they turned out okay.
Kids from a previous generation haven't had to deal with the pandemic unless we're talking about 100 years ago. So they've been taught resilience, they've been taught composure.
And that same kind of grit is now being unleashed on educational achievement.
It's very cool to see students move up into pods, move up into study groups, move up into new learning platforms, or just take on initiative and learning by themselves.
And sure, there's some disengagement and ghosting going on too, but that might be because remote learning was slapped together on the fly last year, and diving into the deep end has given everybody a better handle on the role of technology in education.
Technology for the schools is here, it's going to stay, it's never going to go away.
So now we can make it better.
The better we can ensure that the kids are learning in their own personalized and individualized style, the better off our kids are going to be. And that's the opportunity that this technology revolution has to offer.
Done right, tech can accommodate learning differences and increase transparency.
Students can learn more knowledge, teachers can convey their knowledge in more ways, and parents can keep track of what their kids are learning and what comments or criticisms the teacher has.
Speaking of parents, the pandemic has activated parental involvement.
This pandemic spurred a much larger group of parents to become bigger advocates for their children.
It's hard to miss when you're working at home and they're attending school at the same kitchen counter.
The proximity to their kids has forced parents to pay attention to what their kids are learning and become more aware of all the things their kids are working on.
And it matters.
The more parents are involved, the more kids feel like they're a stakeholder in their own education.
Finally, if the pandemic's done anything, it's renewed our appreciation for teachers and schools.
Guidance counselors and teachers are overworked, underappreciated, and underpaid. And we cannot take their work for granted. We have to ensure that we're supporting them, not just for a year or 2 years, and not just with social media posts, but with increased benefits, increased support, and a lot more training.
The pandemic exposed inequities in education, but it's taught some valuable lessons too.
We're all in this together, that it takes a village to raise a child.
How the pandemic has changed education is at the top of the list.